Welcome, everybody. I am R. Christian Minson, host of this Facebook Live Fridays Breathwork Edition, talking to you today about making freedom a reality. I am a former director of the Breathwork program at Rhythmia Life Advancement Center in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. I'm a former monk of 10 years living a monastic lifestyle. I am currently a certified transformational breath facilitator. I've been doing breathwork for the last 13 years. I'm a senior trainer with the Transformational Breath Foundation, a speaker, author, and internet coach, basically your catalyst for awakening and transformation towards a life of greater fulfillment and pizzazz, happiness in your life. So welcome. A few more people joined on. If you want to say hi, use that chat bar. Let me know where you're from. Let me know if you have any questions during the week. During the broadcast here. And of course, if there's anything you want me to talk about during the week, you can put it in that chat bar or always friend me or message me on Facebook and give me some topic suggestions if you like. Today we're talking about making freedom a reality. So really, what is freedom and how to get it? So why this is such an important topic? Of course, we open nowadays with the regulated society that we're in. Our freedoms have definitely been compromised. Our ability to move as freely as we used to be able to, in a lot of cases, has been scaled back. We're experiencing less freedom, so to speak, on the outer front. I think going a little bit deeper, there's two qualities of the soul, really, to me, and that's love and freedom. Love, because I think that the vibration of love is the essence of all that is, and then freedom. It's our soul's natural innate state to be free, to be free to express that love nature that we are, and in that freedom, of course, is the ability to not express it. Which is kind of what gets us into trouble, which we'll talk about a little bit. But it's this inner impulse of the expression of your unique individuality as a reflection of that infinite source. I like to use the analogy where we to the divine one, God, if you will, is a main holographic image, and if you break that holographic image into 1,000 pieces, you don't have 1,000 parts of the image, you have 1,000 complete images, and that's the nature of a hologram. And so that really is a great analogy for how our soul is a direct reflection of the divine one, of the source of spirit. And so each of us has the innate fullness of the divine to express, and that really is the freedom to be able to express that in its fullness and do it in a unique way, do it in whichever way we choose to do. The soul's bound to this body by a chain of temptations, troubles, worries, and ultimately mortal consciousness. So let's get into it. Anybody say anything? Nope. So what is freedom then? If it's so important to discuss, what is it that we're striving to be free from? And I would say the big answer to that is suffering. We're looking to be free from suffering. Suffering really is when you are out of alignment with your true nature as the divine. So again, we are this holographic image of the holographic piece, which is the whole image of the one, when you put them all back together. And when we're acting out of alignment with that true nature, that true soul impulse, then we experience this suffering. So a lot of how we get out of how we experience freedom is to act in ways that keep us in alignment with the soul nature of who we are. They say in life that pain is mandatory, but suffering is optional. All right, so we can say we can be free of suffering, but we can still experience pain in our lives, and pain is just part of it. This physical encasement has a lot of receptors that indicate pain when certain things are happening. So it's just part of our physical reality that pain exists. When I go through breath work, it's an interesting exercise to observe your pain, observe where you might be feeling pain physically, feeling pain emotionally, and just be with that pain and recognize it as more of a sensation, an information-giving sensation, than it is ultimately suffering. And suffering, again, is that pain of being out of alignment with our higher self. So this freedom is really also freedom from our thoughts that create this suffering. Now, this concept just was reawakened lately, and I talked a little bit about it in Creating Emotional Balance, which was a Facebook Live I did a week ago, so you could find that in the archives. But one of the ways that we feel is our thoughts. Our thoughts create our feelings. So if we have a thought based on an assumption or a thought based on something that may be out of alignment, we feel suffering, and it's the thought that's actually creating the feeling. We have the opportunity to get out of that feeling by recognizing that it's our thought causing it. Okay, so when we talk about freedom, my spiritual teacher Paramahansa Yogananda back here said, freedom really is to be able to do what you know you need to do when you need to do it. All right? Freedom is the ability to do what you know you need to do when you need to do it. And this really is ultimately an inner game, not an outer game. The fact that in the outer there's always something thwarting our freedom, if you really think about it. This body here in and of itself keeps us from expressing fully freedom on an external level, especially if you got something wrong with it. Let's say you want to be free to go running, but your leg hurts that day. So the point is, that outer freedom is typically compromised. There's no way around that. We've continually got something limiting our freedom on the outer level. Okay, and this doesn't mean that we can't find that freedom on an inner level. And for that, I use the illustration we know of the great public figure Nelson Mandela, great civil rights figure. He was jailed for 20 years. 20 years he spent in prison for his political views and such, and yet it was in that jail that he describes that he found the freedom inside himself. He came to reconcile that his spirit was not jailed. His body was confined, but his spirit was free. And this this just shows that any of us who are feeling a little bit less free because we're not as able to move around as much as we can during this time of this virus and lockdown and all that, to recognize that this may be an opportunity for you to start to look inside and see that the freedom that we're really seeking is an inner game. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't try to continually be vigilant to maintaining our outer freedoms. And in fact, I think, as an aside, this time in our history is really a time to wake up and be very clear that the actions we take forward will be either very compromising to our own personal freedoms and liberties, or they can help keep our freedoms and liberties. So be prepared to stand up for freedom, if that's something you believe in, and the outer freedom, and I certainly do. But when it comes down to it, no matter what happens, we're still playing this inner game, and this game of avoiding suffering, or overcoming suffering, I would say, and learning to exhibit this inner freedom. Well, let's see. The freedom to the power to act by the soul's guidance, really, versus the compulsions or the do what you want, or what we call whim freedom, is what we'll typically see as freedom out there. That, I want an ice cream, I can go out and get that ice cream and eat it, and nobody, nobody can stand in my way. That's a whim freedom. But then you eat that ice cream, and then it causes you a stomach ache, and you realize, well, maybe that wasn't the best thing for me. Maybe I didn't do what I know I needed to do in the time that I needed to do it, which maybe, recognizing that it's not the best food for you or something, to know you need to abstain from that to create the happiness down the road is actually more an expression of freedom than to just go for it. Okay. However, and we want to make clear too, to act, to be good, essentially, out of habit, isn't freedom either. Really, it's automatic. You've created this habit, and you've compelled yourself. Now, not saying not to develop good habits. It's a way of choosing to, you can choose what you need to do, and then you can develop a habit to do it. But I just want to make the distinction that the habit isn't freedom either. We want to essentially acting from a deep inner wisdom and free choice, that there's no compulsion one way or another, no influence to say, well, this promises happiness or freedom, but then down the line it creates something different. We're acting from that deep inner wisdom to again get in alignment with what your soul is really asking for. Another element of freedom is how it interplays with the law of karma. The law of karma is really, at a fundamental level, action equals reaction, right? What you put out there in the world in terms of vibration, you do something good comes back to you. And I don't even like to, again, use those words good and bad, because they're really judgment words. But let's just say you do something that's in harmony with your environment and yourself, and you create harmonious vibrations coming back. You do something that's out of harmony with the relative balance of the world, and what you get comes back out of balance. And so you're going to experience that. This is really the mechanism to help us guide our freedom, our choices to be free or not. All right. So we act in whatever ability of freedom we have, but then the information we get back to us is really telling us, did that freedom, or did that action promote your freedom, promote your happiness, promote yourself out of suffering, or did it end up creating more suffering? And that's the benevolent side of the law of karma. It's really there to help us understand that we're acting in alignment or not for our own betterment. Again, acting in alignment with our soul, our higher self, is really giving us the ability to be free. All right, so this brings us to how do we really attain this freedom? Okay. Now this is, as I said in the beginning, I think the two really qualities of the soul are love and freedom. So we're really talking about the highest endeavors here we have is to maintain our freedom and to live and act in love. So most important things in our lives take some kind of effort, right? So this is really to recognize that life is a process of making effort to attain something great, but the reward is great. The reward is your liberation, your ultimate freedom. So when we talk about how we attain freedom, the first thing to do is be awareness. All right. So consider first of all that when we experience suffering, oftentimes it's not so much the pain of the event that's causing us the really deep suffering, but it's our resistance to that event or that pain that really brings about the suffering. So there really is a point of surrender to recognize that that things are happening, and when the energy is such that there is this pain, to surrender to that energy often diminishes the intensity of the suffering. You know, the pain may still be there, but again, as we start to reflect on pain being different than suffering, pain just becomes a sensation that we experience, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain. It's really, we recognize that it's information that's being delivered to us, and we don't get as wrapped up in the intensity of it. But as soon as we resist it, as soon as we want that, we don't like it, I don't like this, I want it away from me, then we're in this fight with the pain, which is what causes the suffering. And they say, there's a joke out there that says, never wrestle with a pig, because you'll just get dirty and the pig will love it, right? So if you think about that in terms of this quality where when you experience pain and you're wrestling with it, it's like all that's going to happen is it's going to get messy, and the pain doesn't care either way. You're creating the suffering yourself. All right, you're creating the suffering for yourself, and you have the choice to do that or not. So part of this awareness is really knowing where your triggers lie, knowing where your baggage is, knowing where the thoughts that come up from a place of unintegrated emotions and unintegrated experiences, where you haven't fully been able to work through the energy of some past experience that was less than pleasant, and therefore those things come up, and they're what create the resistance, they're what create the struggle and ultimately the suffering. At the same time, then recognize where your limitations are, but then also recognize that you are immortal, that you are a soul come here to play and learn lessons, not that this is the be-all and end-all of existence, and that as a physical being we temporarily have glimpses into our soul nature. But as recognizing that you're immortal, you have the awareness that even though you may be temporarily in this mire of pain and some suffering, that as an immortal you always have the ability to rise above it. And how will you do that? Partly by employing your will. Will is a huge part of this whole equation. When we're talking about freedom, will is right there connected with it. Again, as Paramahansa Yogananda here defined it, freedom is to be able to do what you need to do when you need to do it, right? So this requires the will to be able to act or not act, refrain from acting when you know that acting's not the best to do. And it's like the two ladies that walk by the bakery who are on a diet, but they like look in and they say, well, let's go in and see what happens, right? I can tell you what's likely to happen is that unless the will is strong, that there's going to be a failure there, that they're going to get off their diet by entering into that store. But the will, the exercise of will in this case is to see the temptation, see the muffins in the window, and keep walking. All right, so your will must be fueled by a strong desire to be free and keep doing what it takes. Resolve ultimately that you're not going to be affected by your troubles, and know that it's okay to be tempted and it's okay to fall at times, but the only fall that isn't okay is the one that you remain on the ground and you decide that there's no more trying that you can do. Every fall is just more information to tell you how to navigate your path in the future. So willpower is a huge factor in the effort to become free, and we can't just be free by sitting on the couch and letting it all happen. Right? That again isn't going to give us the true depth of freedom to get out of suffering. So part of that will then is to take action. Action is really the essence of this physical reality. We're in action here, where everything is a ball in motion, and if you stagnate, if you stay out of motion, you're going to feel it, and that's again where you will experience suffering, because to not act is ultimately to be not in alignment with your higher self. You're compelled to act, to continue to evolve, to continue to express, and again, you want to make sure that your actions are in alignment with the true reality of your infinite nature, rather than constantly being duped into feeling like you're a victim and you have no control. Here, take your awarenesses and act on them. Take your awarenesses of what your triggers are, what your baggage is, and start to act towards alleviating them. To doing those things which will ultimately take you out of the suffering, or remove you from that suffering. For example, you could say, like, you're in a relationship that's struggling, and instead of, say, acting to the relationship's not working, so you change it for another one, and that's not working, so you change it for another one. In essence, you could say, well, I'm acting, I'm moving, from one to another, but versus staying put in that relationship and digging a little deeper, uncovering the issues that cause the relationship to go sour in the first place. That would be, the first one, where you're just skipping from relation to relation, is not really actions that are in alignment with your higher self. They're not evolving you. You're just kicking the can down the path to the next relationship and the next relationship. Whereas you say, all right, there's something here. Let's look at what the root causes are. to use an analogy, like if you're wanting to cut down a tree, right? If you go and you cut all the branches off the tree and you got the stump there, you go, all right, well, the tree is no more. But then the roots are still in the ground and they suck nutrients up and they sprout new little branches. Even though you've cut everything off, there's a tendency to sprout more. So, this is how we typically work it. Whereas if you're really wanting to cut down that tree, the analogy here, fix the relationship in my example, you're going to cut the tree at the roots. You're going to cut the problem at the roots. So you're going to really look at, you got to take time to bring that awareness. What is the root of the problem? And then start to resolve it from there. Okay, and then all of this, I want to mention again, I said at the beginning, is tempered by surrender. So we act ultimately in the way we think is going to serve us the best or help us move along, but then we have to surrender the fruits of those actions, meaning our right is to action, to be able to act a certain way. Now we may expect a certain result to come from those actions, but this is where we have to recognize that you can act, but how, what results come from those actions is not in your control, and to be able to surrender. Now it may turn out exactly, if we're taking calculated actions, we may get results back that are similar to what we're expecting. But if we don't, this is where surrender is of vital importance. And surrender is, if will, let's say, is the right hand of freedom, say surrender is the left hand, meaning we willfully act to do those things we know we need to do when we need to do them, but then we surrender the results. And in so doing, we're not creating suffering by resisting the results. If the results aren't what you want them to be, the suffering comes from resisting that, saying this isn't supposed to be, how could this be, I acted this way and it's supposed to create this kind of result. That creates a suffering. By surrendering, by recognizing, all right, I did my best in what I was striving to do, and it didn't create the result. Let's go back to the drawing board and try something different. And in that mechanism, freedom is found. Right. So, of course, there are tools that can help us do these things too. These are things that I think a lot of us know already or inherently know. I think we all inherently know this if we tune into our soul. But how do we do that? How do we actually tune in? And of course, meditation is one of those great tools to give us a chance to disassociate from everything, so that the voice of our soul can come forth and inform us of what is really, the need in the moment, and then we use our will to act on that. Breath work, of course, is to me one of the prime tools, and I would say even in this case perhaps a leg up on the meditation, even because what the breath work can do, first of all, is bring those awarenesses, help us disassociate, just like meditation can, from our lives, so that we get more in touch with the inner guidance, and that comes forth in an intuitive awareness. But as well, the breath work can help bring up energies and the kinds of things that those old experiences and unresolved feelings that are our triggers and our baggage, which we were talking about, right? When we're talking about moving through, doing what we know we need to do, is being aware of those things that are limiting us. The breath work not only brings us the awareness, but is actually a process for helping us move through those kinds of things. And of course, if you need any help on those fronts, or you feel like working with the breath is something that you resonate with and want some assistance and guidance in that direction, that's what I'm here for. And so, message me, email me, christian@breathflow.com. Go to my website, breathflow.com, and fill out the contact form and start up a dialogue with me. This is how we can make a difference in your life using these tools. So the tools are really here to help move you forward in this pursuit of freedom quicker and more effectively, more efficiently. We have meditation, breath work, which is a big one. Of course, plant medicine, where I came from at Rhythmia, specialized in that, and different kinds of tools of those natures, which offers you a chance to get out of your own perspective, or your everyday perspective, your ego perspective, if you will, and take on a new understanding, see things from a broadened way, which is what I like about the breath work as well. It gives you that same kind of experience without having to go take anything external in order to get there. Okay, so another way that you can work on this freedom is service to others, meaning that to do things with the motivation to help others, and the more let's say the less gain that you can get out of this, the more that it's purely for the helping of others is like key here in service, that we let go of ourselves temporarily. This is a freedom here, because what are we letting go of is really our egoistic nature, our desires, our self-propelling, self-fulfilling activities, selfish oftentimes. So by doing for others, and doing for others as in as altruistic framework as possible, we temporarily get outside of ourselves, and we recognize that a lot of these constructs that we have about who we are and what we need are what's holding us back, what's limiting us, and that can be information, that can be awareness to then start working on those things. But that awareness can come by serving others and getting outside of yourself. And of course, I think one of that's my final point here on how to really align yourself with freedom, how to make freedom a reality, as the name of this talk was about, is to practice the expression of unconditional love. And this is, if you want to know, do what you know you need to do when you need to do it. Let's say to be able to express unconditional love is something you need to do in every moment of the day. And why is that? Well, if we go back to the original premise that sort of the two innate qualities of the soul are love and freedom. Love being the infinite vibration that is the vibration that then all other vibrations spring from, that we're constantly, the more that we can express love, the more we're aligned with that vibration. And if that was the big holographic image, now we're broken up as a little holographic piece, still love is our nature. And so to practice the expression of unconditional love is really the true test of freedom. If you're in love in any given expression, you are aligned in that moment. You are realized. You are one with your true nature. And if you're not expressing love, then you're out of alignment with your true nature. To me, this is such a simple test, and quite frankly, a very sobering test, because, at least for myself, I realized, even knowing this, how often I am acting not out of love. And then I get to see, where is that coming from? Which is usually coming from the ego and the ideas and the habits of ideas that I've developed that we've been talking about, the triggers and the baggage that's causing the suffering that I'm trying to get away from. So it never fails to express love. That doesn't just mean, unconditional love isn't ideal. I'd say if we're fully able to express unconditional love at all times, then we're there. We're fully in alignment with who we are and our divine nature, and you could say you're self-realized. You have attained that nirvana, or that blissful state of being. But we're all always waffling in and out of it. So we all experience being in alignment at certain times. Now, of course, the easy for us to express love when love is being reflected back at you, and this is where practice of unconditional love, of course, is to not feel love coming at you, not recognizing that there's love in the field for you, but still putting it forward. This is, again, knowing what you need to do when you need to do it, and that's, as far as expressing love goes, that's all the time. So that really makes it easy to me. I'm a guy who likes to boil things down to the basics, and if you can get it, I mean, you could say that the essence of making freedom a reality is to practice the expression of unconditional love in every moment. And to the degree that you can do that is to the degree that you are free. If you can do that 50% of the time, then you're really 50% free. Just know this is an endeavor we're all working on, including myself. And that's why I've started these kind of Facebook Lives and things like that, because it helps me to express that unconditional love, to offer something that I think can help and improve the world by improving yourself. First of all, of course, taking this to heart and striving to improve myself, and sharing it with others to help them yourselves improve you. And it's in really taking personal responsibility for our improvement, our happiness, and our freedom that we improve the world. So when we come up with all these bills or ideas or things to limit other people so that we can feel safe, or we can feel like the situation's under control, I would say this: take care of yourself. If you take care of yourself, let others take care of themselves. If they don't, they suffer the consequences, but you take care of yourself. So if you're not, well, let's just leave it at that. And I got a little hug and heart from Isabel. Hey, how are you? And hopefully that was because you liked what I said. Anyway, this is a process of facing ourselves, facing our triggers, facing our fears, and it takes courage to do this. And courage is hand in hand with that willpower. So this isn't a light topic. It's not something where you say, oh yeah, just hang out and everything will be cool. Just peace and love, man, and it'll work. But but in true depth, once again, striving to express unconditional love in all experiences is the essence of it. And so you could say peace and love is it in one level, but to just give it lip service, of course, is not the ideal. It's to actually put into action. When you're slapped, don't slap back 3 times harder, but continue to offer that unconditional love, and you'll find that in that giving of that unconditional love is the freedom that we're seeking. So what if you could do this? What if you could start working towards freedom by, utilizing your will, your awareness, your surrender, your ability to strive to love unconditionally. Just imagine how life could open up for you. That one, you're no longer a victim of life, but you recognize that you have the power to make your life a prison or to make your life a heaven. Just again, as Nelson Mandela did, even though the body was in prison for 20 years, he found that freedom and that contentment within. And that's available to all of us. So, we'll still have troubles, we'll still have challenges in life, but you have a greater sense of knowing you can rise above them, and knowing that they don't have to cause you suffering. The troubles and challenges are the lessons of life. They're the test at the end of the semester. They are the things that force you to rise above who you were and become a new level of being. And just imagine that, as you pursue this freedom, that you're no longer afraid of what life might deal to you, but you enjoy what you bring to life. And again, a very much more empowering perspective. So I implore you to play this inner game of freedom, get out there, use that will, express that unconditional love, and give me a report back on how it goes for you. We'll check in next time on Facebook Live. So until then, namaste. And then, now, let's see what the time we got left. Of course, if anybody wants to say anything, if you got any comments or things like that, but part of my offering of love is to bring the songs into the mix here. Song, I was trying to think of a song I knew that really expressed freedom, and the one that came to me was Blackbird. So I think in a way that this the song Blackbird has the essence of freedom in it. So let's go ahead and play it, shall we? Blackbird singing in the dead of night, take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life you were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night, take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird flies, blackbird flies into the light of the dark black night. Blackbird flies, blackbird flies into the light of the dark black night. these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arrive. You were only waiting for this moment to arrive. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird. All right. There we have it. The conclusion of another Facebook Live Friday Breathwork Edition. Our Christian Minson here saying if you like this, enjoy this, please share, please like it. Please subscribe to my channels, my pages, whatever it is, whether it's on YouTube you find this or on Facebook Live or otherwise. Keep in touch. Let me know if there's anything I can do if you want to explore breathwork or life, life guidance on a more spiritually oriented level. Let me know. And until then, if there's anything you want to say it now, forever hold your peace. So there we go. We got some people saying thanks, thank you, beautiful. And until next time, our Christian Minson signing off. Namaste.